It's another day, left jab, right jab, this is MMA. Mixed martial arts, quick body parts, undefeated when I pick 'em. Who the champ, who the victim, looking in my crystal ball, I predict the winner. Never stop fighting, if you lose, keep your chin up. Know how the game go, I'm a smart fella. Welcome to the show, this the MMA fortune teller.
The MMA fortune teller.
The teller.
What is up, you guys? UFC Vegas 27. I really like this main event here. We got Cody Garbrandt taking on Rob Font. You guys know Cody at one point in time was hyped up to be one of the biggest stars in the making over here in the UFC. And, he's had some setbacks. It seems like he got the ball rolling again, coming off a big victory. And, he has a tough test in front of him, though. Rob Font is absolutely no joke. For those of you guys that know the fight game, you guys know Rob Font is a very serious fighter on the up and up right now. And this is going to be an awesome match here in the bantamweight division. A great main event slot. You guys, please do excuse my voice. My voice is beat up from the weekend. A game of golf, screaming, hitting some big putts there. Had the big night of fights, which we'll be getting to here in a minute. Obviously, it was a profitable night. You guys know the deal with the Charles Oliveira fight. I was going nuts when he got that knockout in the second round. A lot of money came in. We'll be getting to that in a minute. We'll be doing a full UFC 62 breakdown. As always, we'll have timestamps for all the different segments in this episode. So if you guys want to skip through to certain segments, feel free to do that. I'll have the timestamps here. Going to do some MMA news, what's going on as of recently. Going to do the UFC 262 recap, and then we're going to get into the focal point of today's episode, UFC Vegas 27. So with no further ado, let's get into the MMA news segment. So I thought this was pretty cool. I'm sure a lot of you guys saw this. Tyson Fury rolling around on the mats with Nick Diaz. Not exactly sure how that all came to be, but two of my favorite guys in the fight game. Obviously, a lot of you guys know I'm a big Tyson Fury fan. I think he does not get the respect that he deserves for whatever reason. I think that he holds his own with all the greatest heavyweight boxers of all time. I think this guy's skills are really underrated. I don't remember the last guy, with his size to move the way that he does. I think he should be, he is still undefeated, but, I do think that his resume, having that draw, was complete BS. The first fight with Wilder, I barely gave Wilder 2 rounds of that fight. Wilder had the big knockout. Fury gets up and basically comes back to almost win that round, dominates every round of that fight, and, of course, the corrupt boxing game, does give him the short end of the stick there, but he comes back and destroys Fury in the rematch. But he was rolling around on the mats with Nick Diaz. Thought that was pretty cool. Had a little video on his Instagram, and Tyson Fury has announced that he has has that big fight coming up with Anthony Joshua. I'm very excited to see that they got that going, and I hope we see Nick Diaz back in the octagon, man. I'm a big fan of Nick Diaz's, and hopefully we'll see that. Let's see what else we got going on over here. PFL 4. I want to talk about this PFL 4 fight card real quick because it's actually pretty impressive in my opinion for a PFL card. Anthony Pettis getting back in there against Alex Martinez. Bubba Jenkins, a very decorated wrestler that came over to the MMA game a while back, was on the Bellator scene. He's getting a fight here with Anthony Dizzy. Brendan Laughlin versus Tyler Diamond. Laughlin being a guy that was very impressive on Dana White's Contender Series, didn't get the contract. He's a nasty striker. Tyler Diamond, ex-Ultimate Fighter contestant, has some good wrestling skills, and a guy that was at one point in time to be thought as a very top prospect. I like that matchup. Clay Collard fighting Jolton Lutterbach. We got Nathan Schultz taking on Makil Adenstaz. Lance Palmer's throwing down. Lance Palmer, a guy that fights at a Team Alpha Male, a very talented fighter. Keep an eye on that fight. Marcin Held taking on Olivier Aubin-Mercier, 2 ex-UFC fighters there. And let's not forget about Chris Wade, also an ex-UFC fighter, a guy that I am very high on, a guy I like. Chris Wade taking on Arman Ospanov. Shayman Moraes also throwing down just a lot of notable names. Keep an eye on this fight card. And this is actually going down. Let's get the date here for you guys. This is going down June 10th. Is that right? Yeah, June 10th. So keep an eye on that fight card. Just kicks off at 6 p.m. Eastern. Doesn't hurt to have more fights going down, right? PFL, Bellator, UFC, just more solid fights for us. How about this? Kevin Lee blasts Mike Perry for rejecting the fight. Is that a fight that you guys wanted to see? Comment below. I would have liked to see that fight. Not sure exactly why Mike Perry's dodging Kevin Lee. I think that Mike Perry can get the better of Kevin Lee there. Maybe Kevin Lee thinks that he's sniffing something out. He sniffs out fighting a guy with a big name, and maybe he thinks he has an edge on Mike Perry. Mike Perry's shown to have some chinks in his armor as of recently. He's been not winning all his fights out there, and maybe Kevin Lee smells some blood there. Either way, doesn't look like that fight's happening as of now. What else we got? This was pretty cool. Kayla Harrison, she was on Ariel Helwani's show, and there's been some talks about her finally coming over to the UFC. I would love to see that. If you guys aren't familiar with Kayla Harrison, she may very well be the best women's fighter out there right now. Obviously, she has a lot to prove, but this is an Olympic caliber fighter. I think she was a gold medalist in the judo. I forget what year for the Olympics, but I mean, this girl has, she's an Olympic caliber athlete. Since coming over to MMA, she's dominating everybody over in the PFL scene, but we do need to see a step up in competition, and there's that potential for, that fight with Amanda Nunes, who she actually trains with. So it's kind of funny, kind of interesting there. Luke Rockhold's been venting about, the fact that nobody wants to fight him. I can't really put my finger on that. Maybe if you guys have any ideas, comment below, because Luke Rockhold, has seemed to be, an easy match for a lot of these guys. He's a big name. So I don't know why a lot of these fighters wouldn't be jumping at the opportunity to get a match with Luke Rockhold, but he says people are dodging him. So we'll keep an eye on that as well moving forward. And that's pretty much going to wrap up what's been going on as of recently. Nothing too big. Dan Hardy's begging for the UFC to let Nick Diaz go so he can fight him. Johnny Walker versus Thiago Santos is coming up. It's a good fight. Derek Brunson versus Darren Till. It's a good fight. It's coming forward. Paulo Costa versus Jared Cannonier. That's going to be a main event fight there coming up down the line. And that's going to wrap up what's been going on as of recently. Also, Islam Makhachev gets a fight with Thiago Moises. Not the big name that a lot of people want to see a guy like Islam fight. A lot of people understand that this guy's skills are top notch in the division, and this guy's just been, they've been taking their sweet time getting him to the top of the division. A lot of people would like to see him matched up against a top caliber opponent. I know I would. But Thiago Moises is a guy that's been putting it together. Nasty submission artist who's been striking good as of recently. Let's see how Islam fares there. Probably gets the job done. He'll be a big favorite as usual. And that's what's been going on as of recently in the MMA world. Now, with no further ado, let's get to the recap of UFC 262. So I'm very excited to get into this recap. This was an awesome card. A lot of spectacular fights, crazy finishes. You guys already know, if you're following me on Instagram, MMA Fortune Teller _ or on Twitter, the MMA Teller. It was another profitable event. I went 3 for 4 on the night. My one loss, luckily enough for me, was my smallest play, and we'll be getting to that all here as we slide through this card. We'll start at the bottom. We'll work our way up to the top. Christos Giagos, no play for me here, but you guys know I'm a big fan of Christos. We've had him on the show twice. You guys know I support my Greek fighters. He's a Greek American like me, and he's a guy that's been really putting it together now. I think he's 4 out of his last 5 fights, victorious there. So he's been putting it together. He was looking good in the beginning of that first round, but he did get cracked against Sean Seriano, and came back in the second round, pulled off the nasty darts, got the takedown. Christos' wrestling is very much underrated. And I'll say this much too, Sean Seriano is going to get another opportunity in the UFC. He works with Henry Hooft, and his striking is very much underrated as well. When I saw this fight, taking place in the feet and they're sitting there striking, I know Giagos can hold his own, but Seriano, in my opinion, is a little bit more polished with the striking, getting trained over there with Henry Hooft. I think, he's just getting a little bit better training, and Sean Seriano's a tough fighter. But again, Giagos showed the heart that he has. And, if you guys didn't realize, he's a fighter that goes out there and he engages in very entertaining fights. If you've seen some of his fights over in the Russia scene and a couple throughout his career, this is a guy that will engage in a brawl. So I'm glad Giagos, makes a statement there. In our next fight, this was my first official play, a 5-unit play. It was tied for my second biggest play in the card. I was all over Tucker Lutz here against Kevin Aguilar. Hopefully, for those of you guys that tuned in last week, you guys caught on to that because Tucker Lutz, the line was basically a pick'em. I had Tucker capped right around a minus 160, 165, 170 in that range. I like Tucker Lutz. He's looked very good since his Dana White's Contender Series fights that he's had. He's won twice over there. This guy is a very physically strong guy. He has good, underrated striking. He has some clean hands. He's very accurate with his punches. He's strong. He gets takedowns. And then you had Kevin Aguilar, a guy that's been struggling to put it together. That's what 4 losses in a row for him. I will say this, Aguilar, did show out in the 3rd round, but he was already down 2. It wasn't enough. And I was all over this play here. And those are the plays that I love, man. When those plays are sitting there like that, at a line like that, I felt so good going into this card with the play like that. So shout out to Tucker Lutz. And the next fight, Priscilla Cochoera takes out Gina Mazzani. Hopefully none of you guys were crazy enough to touch Gina at 2-1 odds. That's ridiculous. In this division, in the flyweight division, 2 girls like this, with Priscilla coming off that knockout victory in her last fight. You guys, if you were listening to what I was saying, hopefully none of you guys touched that fight. If anything, there was some value in the dog. I just wanted nothing to do with that fight. I just tuned in and watched. And, that's how I thought about that fight. Andrea Lee takes out Antonina Shevchenko. Hopefully none of you guys were touching Shevchenko after the holes that she's shown to have on the mat. I know we talked about how she cleaned things up in her last fight, but we need to see more of that to really be a believer. Seeing from her past experiences how she's just looked completely incompetent on the mat, and she shows once again that she has not made those strides. I did slightly pick her to win this fight if she was able to keep it standing, but as far as betting, this is a fight that you guys should have been staying away, in my opinion, staying away from. And Andrea Lee, good for her. She gets a nice victory there, and she'll be getting a nice fight moving forward. Jordan Wright takes out Jamie Pickett. I'll tell you what, man, this was one of my most exciting fights on the night as far as I was concerned. This fight, I was going nuts when I was watching this fight just because just arrived to a little party. This was one of the first fights we had on the big screen, and everyone's sitting there like, all right, well, what kind of fights we got tonight? Of course, I was already watching every fight on my phone or whatnot, but the whole party's tuned into this fight, and you guys know what happened. It was just absolute fireworks. Jordan Wright, this guy, I did pick him to win this fight. No action here. I thought this fight could have won either way, though. Jordan Wright's a guy that has that karate style. His hands are low. I think he is susceptible to being tagged by boxing heavy fighters, and Jamie Pickett has some hands, so I was a little worried there. I didn't feel super confident in this play, but Jordan Wright is a guy that is a finisher. And, he shows that he's a real martial artist, attacking with the elbows as he was stuffing the takedown. Once he smelt the blood, going in for the kill. He was very accurate with his punches and has his own little style there. So the Beverly Hills Ninja, that was pretty cool to watch. And he gets another finish, in the UFC. So keep an eye on Jordan Wright. I think he's a guy that, win or lose, will be engaged in a lot of exciting fights. And the next fight, this takes me to my second play. I did have a play on Mike Grundy, a 4-unit play. Was my smallest play on the card. It was a split decision loss. I think it should have been a unanimous decision loss, if I'm being honest. Didn't expect Lando to be able to stuff those takedowns consistently like that for 3 rounds straight. I've been very high on Mike Grundy's wrestling. I've seen him get takedowns on Mosar Evolov, but wasn't the case here. Lando looked very good. Looks good down at that division. And, in retrospect, I would have stayed away, but I didn't. And it's all good because I hit my next 2 plays, and it was a very profitable night. Now, I will say I do have some regret here. In the next fight, Andre Muniz, you guys know I picked him to take out Jacare Souza. I was literally on the fringe of making this an official play. I was getting ready to type up my official play on this. I did take a step back. I was looking at the fact that Souza just was in a split decision, loss to Jan Blachowicz. I've been so impressed with the champion, Jan. Obviously, Souza has the grappling abilities too. He can strike. I thought Souza may have been able to nullify Muniz's grappling abilities himself. So I just didn't want to play around with it, but I should have. I definitely should have. And you guys know I had some money on this, just, obviously for fun. I'm betting on all these fights. But it was supposed to be, it should have been a big official play, and I stayed away. I told you guys the youth that Muniz has, this guy's been very impressive. I'm very high on him. He breaks Souza's arm. Now we really, really, put a little highlight next to his name, and we keep an eye on him moving forward. This guy is a beast, and what a performance. This was my third play. Coming up next, Edson Barbosa had a 4.5 unit play in Barbosa at dog odds. Grabbed that plus 115, plus 135. I couldn't believe he was the dog going into this fight. He's looked amazing since he's dropped down to featherweight. Should be 3-0. They robbed him in his first fight there. He's such an accurate, diverse striker. Shane Burgos is a guy that has a lot of, I always say this, a lot of defensive striking holes in his game. You know, he did look good as well, but he leaves his chin out there. He drops his hands. And look, what did I say? I said Barbosa's a sniper, and I expect him to get that finish. If not, he would have won the decision, in my opinion, anyway. It was coming down to that third round. But what a knockout. When's the last time you guys saw a knockout like that? Barbosa hits him on the ear, on the side of by the temple, with the right hook, and it was like Burgos got hit with a liver shot to the brain. He froze up. He tried to keep a poker face, and then he collapsed. And as he, you saw him, his brain like shut off. He started blinking. He collapsed. He fell backwards, and it was a tough finish there too. Took some unnecessary shots, and I was going nuts there. Part of the reason why my voice is messed up like this today. And the next fight, Caitlin Chookagian gets the unanimous decision. Some of the scoring was off here. I think that Chookagian still could have won this fight. Would have came down to the first round, but there were some judges that had this 30-27. Thought that was a little ridiculous there. That was a close fight, but I thought Chookagian deserved to win the fight after the third round. Came down to that first round. This was a fight, again, that I didn't want nothing to do with because these types of fights, man, they're really, in my opinion, they're coin flips going into it, and they play out like that. You know, this was a fight I thought was going to be extremely close. What's going to happen out there with these two girls? You know, it's going to be a tit-for-tat type of fight, and that's what it was. And the next fight, Rogerio Bontoran takes out Matt Schnell. Bontoran is a dangerous fighter. I told you guys, I did pick Matt Schnell to win this fight. I told you guys the line was off on this fight. I wanted to root for my boy Matt here. Wanted to stay away as far as betting goes. Bontoran had some little issues with the weight and whatnot. That's why I just wanted to stay away from this fight. But Bontoran is a guy, that line was disrespectful in my opinion. Schnell, took some shots from Tyson Nam in his fight there. Bontoran is a guy that's he's dangerous on the feet. He can grapple. And he took that fight to Schnell, and he was the dog there, and he put some money in some people's pockets for sure. And the co-main event, Beneil Dariush, takes out Tony Ferguson. I did ride with Tony here. Obviously, I stood away from it betting-wise. Wanted nothing to do with this betting-wise as well, but I was hoping that we would see Tony show up and and look like the vintage form of Tony. That wasn't the case. My gut kind of told me too that Beneil is just a little bit too much of a polished fighter, and he had that grappling in his back pocket. And if this wasn't going to be an all-out war in the feet, that Dariush would probably get some takedowns and control Tony there after what we've been seeing from him, in his last fight. And props to Dariush for being very cerebral out there and handling business. And it's tough, man, for all you Tony fans. I'm a big Tony fan. I think he could still go out there and really, really mess up some dudes. I think I want to see a little bit of a step back in competition. Let Tony get some more exciting fights before he retires. And Tony is not looking to retire as of right now. Check out his Instagram. He's posting some serious stuff about wanting to go forward and get this victory. This guy is made, or crafted from a whole different type of material. This guy is an absolute warrior. How about the heel hook, man? His knee popped. This guy ain't tapping for nothing. Doesn't tap in the armbar of Charles Oliveira. Tony Ferguson may very well be one of the toughest fighters that we've ever seen compete inside the octagon. So props to Tony there. And that takes us to the main event. You guys already knew. I had videos all over my Instagram story. You guys heard me last week. I was trying to let you guys know this was an official play without telling you guys. Charles Oliveira. I still ride this train. I've been riding it for years. You guys know I'm a big, big fan of Michael Chandler's, but there was just so many things, in my opinion, going for Charles. He's hitting his prime right now. It was a 5-unit play, tied for my biggest play on the night here. I like the reach advantage. I like the striking. I said his striking has evolved. It's nasty. The grappling game, when he had Michael Chandler's back, I thought it was going to be over right there. But props to Chandler because you see how tough he is, scrambling out of that position. Michael Chandler almost gets the finish in the first round, very close to getting that finish there. But Charles showed to take some steps up in his game with his durability and his heart. A lot of people question that. And Chandler didn't get the finish in the first. Oliveira comes back in the second round, storms across the octagon. How about that? You guys remember that? The bell rings, he runs across the octagon. And I think that he won the fight right there because, going into a fighter's mindset, when Chandler saw him storm across the octagon, past the center of the octagon, I think Chandler froze up right there. And that's why, he got caught with that left hook, and then obviously, the rest was history. Finished him there. And Charles was running around the octagon. It was crazy. It was bittersweet for me. a lot more sweet. The money came in. Obviously, you know, the plays I give out to you guys, I want to see us all capitalize and make money. You know, but part of me almost, you know, I don't want to say I wanted to see him win because I didn't, but, you know, I am a Chandler fan. I would have loved to see the American flag being held up there, you know, with the belt and whatnot. But, you know, when it comes down to this stuff here, it's strictly business. And you guys know that's what I'm about. So I was taking Charles Oliveira all day. I made big money on that play there. You know, especially when you got a main event fight like that, you know, and you're talking about making money throughout the card. So you got extra money to play with, and you're talking about drinks all day on the golf course, drinks all day watching these fights. You guys already know that, you know, I'm doubling up, I'm tripling up on this play, you know, and I felt very good at it where the line was. So a lot of money came in for me over here. All right, guys. So that's going to wrap up UFC 262, the recap there. And now we're going to move forward to UFC Vegas 27. Let's get into it, boys. So fights just about every single weekend. That's just what it is these days. Of course, you guys remember the old days, man, where we were waiting weeks for fights. And now, you know, on an off week, we just get a Cody Garbrandt versus Rob Font main event fight card with some other exciting fights. So, you know, just it's the life of spoiled MMA fans these days. You got to enjoy it. You know, this fight card obviously is not the most stacked, but there's interesting fights throughout it. And again, it'll be exciting when we hit that main event fight right there. So, you know, in the first fight of the card, we got Sarah Alper taking on Lupita Godinez. Now, if you guys are familiar with Lupita, this is a girl that just fought not too long ago. She was actually an official play of mine. I did have a moderate play on her where she dropped the ball for me. You know, she lost that fight to Jessica Penne. I thought she did enough to win that fight. And from everything that I saw, a lot of you guys agreed with me there. You know, it was a close fight, but I was upset with Lupita because I felt like she left that fight on the table and left it there for the judges to rob her. She wasn't as active at times, even though she was landing the heavier shots and she was stuffing the takedowns. Penne was a little bit more aggressive and you know, chasing her, and the judges gave her that fight because of that. So I you know, I have a little bit of a salty spot right now for Lupita. She did take some money out of my pocket. That was a fight she should have easily won, in my opinion. Lupita is a girl, you know, fighting over in the LFA scene, you know, took out Vanessa Demopoulos in a crazy fight. I've been impressed with some of her fight footage as well. You know, finishing some fights here and there. I like her hands. She does have good takedown defense. We saw that again, though, stuffing takedowns against Penne. I would like to see a little bit more urgency in there when she fights. Again, you know, this fight against Jessica, she was the better fighter, but, you know, if you're backpedaling and you're letting the opposing fighter press you and whatnot, you leave those opportunities for the judges to take that victory away from you. So, you know, that cannot be the case here again, because Sarah will bring the fight to you. Sarah Alpar, a very tough fighter. You know, a lot of us first came familiar with her from Dana White's Contender Series, where she looked very good and showed to have some dominant grappling, where she took a victory there. You know, now since she made her UFC debut, she had a tough outing. You know, she got finished in the third round by Jessica Rose Clark. And, excuse me here, guys, about to sneeze on you. Yeah, but that was a fight that, you know, she did what she always does. Sarah tried to bring the fight. I think Jessica Rose was just a little bit more polished on the feet, a little bit more polished overall. And eventually she broke Sarah and she got that finish. And it was a tough fight too. Sarah was very bloody and wasn't the best look for her. You know, Sarah is a girl, in my opinion. She could really thrive when she's fighting against girls that have bad takedown defense, and she could take them down and kind of beat them up there. I think Lupita will be able to stuff the takedowns, and Lupita will be the more polished boxer. I think, hopefully, at least, that Lupita will have a little bit of a fire lit under her butt right now because of, you know, the fight that she just lost. So if she steps on the gas a little bit, this is a fight that she really should be able to make a statement here. Hopefully she goes out there and she maybe even gets a finish. Maybe she could do something similar to what Jessica Rose Clark did, because Lupita should be the more talented fighter here. But again, I don't know. You know, that last fight from Lupita wasn't a good look for her, and she's gonna have to step it up here. You know, the reach for both these ladies is identical. Sarah has a 2-inch height advantage. You know, so Lupita, she tends to be a little bit on the shorter side for the division, but she's a strong girl, good takedown defense, and she has some striking in her pocket. So I expect Lupita to win this fight. The line that I'm getting right now, I don't think we're going to see it here because it was a newly added fight. If you guys remember now, Sarah was supposed to be fighting name slipping my mind right now. The fight was just scratched. The Swiss girl. Pull it up for you guys real quick. But this fight was just scrapped against Stephanie Egger. I believe she's from Switzerland or one of those European countries there. But Egger had to withdraw. So Lupita does step in on short notice. Hopefully she was aware that this could have been a possibility and she's ready to go. But keep an eye on that as well. And we'll see how she looks as far as her weight goes and whatnot. But I expect Lupita to be the better fighter here and win that fight. And the next fight, we got Damir Ismagulov taking on Rafael Alves. This is a good fight. Don't let this line, skew what this fight really is, because Rafael Alves is a dangerous, dangerous fighter, a very talented fighter. I've had the pleasure of watching him fight live over in Titan FC. I was sitting right cage side when I seen him absolutely sleep this dude, put him out. Rafael Alves is a guy that carries some good power, has all the fundamentals, has the grappling, has the takedown defense. This guy's a very, very polished fighter, training out of MMA Masters, one of the better training facilities, training camps on planet Earth. And now he's fighting this guy, Damir Ismagulov, who's just been on a tear, has not been losing fights. A very polished fighter, a very well-rounded fighter that's just, very cerebral in there. He knows how to get the job done. But this line, it's a little crazy in my opinion. Damir's coming into this fight right now, right around, he's as high as minus 650. That's pretty surprising to me, being that I think Rafael Alves is a very capable fighter. I do understand why he's the favorite, of course. I mean, this guy Damir has been looking to be like one of those types of fighters, if you guys catch my gist. One of those guys, one of those Islam Makhachev type fighters, one of those guys that just, he can strike, he can grapple you, he can control you with the grappling, and he can cruise his way to another victory. But that's a heavy, heavy line in my opinion. I do like Damir. I like Damir to win this fight. But again, Rafael Alves is a guy who's been putting it together as of recently. He has some losses on his resume, of course. But he's always been typically fighting, in a on a scene of a very high level types of fighters. I like the level of competition that he's been fighting. Some tough Brazilian fighters. He's fought over in Jungle Fights. Titan FC. He's fought good competition. And I'm not necessarily saying that I'm taking a stab on him as a dog. We'll see about that. Stay tuned. But I think that he's more than capable to pull off a victory. But Damir is the guy that you want to keep your eye on. This is the guy that has a lot of potential. He's going to have a hell of a reach advantage here too, a 6-inch reach advantage. He could probably pump the jab, use his striking from the outside, probably control Rafael against the cage, and he'll be probably the more conditioned fighter as well. So he has some things going from there. He's 22-1. This guy doesn't lose. And I am going to take Damir Ismagulov to win this fight. And both these guys in their primes right now. And Damir just being also, again, he's more of a naturally bigger fighter. He has that reach, a little bit bigger of a frame. That's going to help him out for sure. But Rafael Alves is a very physically imposing guy too. Sometimes maybe slows down a little bit towards the later rounds, a little bit. Damir should have an edge there. I like Damir to win the fight though. All right. We got Yancy Medeiros taking on Damir Hasnovic. Damir Hasnovic, the Bosnian bomber. This is a guy that I was, me and a lot of people were quite high on at one point in time. This guy was looking to have a lot of potential, but he's had some setbacks and has lost 3 of his last 5 fights. Losing to Hanata Moicano in his last fight where he was completely outclassed on the mat. Showed to have some real holes in his grappling game. So that was not a good look there. He's lost to my boy Christos Giagos. We talked a little bit about him earlier. But when Damir does put it together, looked great against Marco Polo Reyes. If you guys remember that fight, the Nick Hine fight was a close one. And then now he's taking on the guy Yancy. Yancy's just an overall tough dude. Kind of has that Nate Diaz type of style. Funny that he's done a lot of training with him. But really does have that type of style. If you guys catch my drift there. Kind of long. Very just relaxed on the feet, slap you up. He can box you. He has some grappling. Just a tough dude. But I haven't necessarily been so high on Yancy. He lost 3 in a row. Lost to Cerrone, lost to Gillespie, and then lost to Lando Venata in his last fight. Before that, takes out Alex Cowboy Oliveira and Eric Silva. Those were 2 good looks for him there. He's 33 years old now. This is a good fight for him here, in my opinion. Damir is a guy that, like I said, it's really been dropping the ball and has shown really not to be or not to have as much potential as some people thought. Yancy's going to have a 5.5-inch reach advantage. I like that if he can keep this fight on the feet. He's very comfortable with his striking. And this is a fight that's basically a pick'em. I've been back and forth on who I want to pick here, man. This truly is a close fight. As of right now, I think I'm gonna edge Yancy Medeiros. I think I'll take Yancy. If Yancy can get into cruise control and this fight can mostly take place on the feet, I think that Yancy can start to box Damir up a little bit if he uses that reach advantage. And again, we've seen holes from Damir with the grappling as well. Yancy's a guy that does know how to grapple. This guy does, like everybody in the UFC, but he takes his jiu-jitsu seriously and has a little bit of an underrated ground game. And I'll take Yancy Medeiros to win the fight there. In the next fight, we got Joshua Culibao taking on Yilan Shah. Joshua Culibao coming off a very entertaining fight against Charles Jourdain. If you guys remember, he was a major underdog going into that fight, and he dropped and hurt Jourdain very bad in the first round. I think that's why we had the draw, if I remember correctly. It was a 10-8 first round, and then as we went into the second and third rounds, he kind of slowed down, and Jourdain's technical abilities on the feet took over that fight. Culibao, not the most technical striker, does carry some power, very tough, a little bit more of throws more looping punches, and that's also the case with Yilan Shah. Breaking down tape on him, kind of reminiscent to a lot of those Chinese fighters. A tough guy, quick on the feet, decently well-rounded, not the most technical boxer. Throws kind of like looping hooks as well. But he's a tough dude. Out of his last 5 fights, he's only lost 1. It was against Zhu Rong. We just saw him fight inside the UFC not too long ago. And that was a night where all the Chinese fighters lost. So the Chinese fighters haven't been looking that good as of recently. And breaking down on the tape on this guy, even in some of his victorious spots there, was against very low-level competition. I'm going to take Joshua Culibao to win this fight. I understand why he's a minus 255. I think he's the better fighter here. He should be a little bit more, of the physically stronger fighter. I think he's just better anywhere the fight goes anyway. But he'll be a little bit bigger, stronger, maybe even a little bit more technical. And coming off, a very tough fight against Jourdain, and the very tough fight from against Jalen Turner, where I believe he took that fight on short notice. So let's not, put him under the magnifying glass too bad there. Jalen Turner is a talented dude that's been putting it together. I don't think Yilan Shah is on that level. And I think that Culibao is going to come out here and get a nice little victory that he could put in his pocket and start to move forward from there. And, Culibao looking to be in great shape here at the UFC PI. This is a fight that he's got to handle. He's got to win this fight. If he doesn't win this fight, depending on how entertaining it is, this is a fight that, if he loses, maybe we don't see him too much after this fight here. So, and the Chinese fighter is getting an opportunity here, and this is a big spot for him as well, making his UFC debut. But I don't think he gets the job done, in my opinion. And there's a reason why the line is where it is, and he's the dog that he is. Got to see a little bit more from him before I pick him to defeat a guy that's been in the octagon twice and that's shown to be a tough fighter. All right, in the flyweight division, we got Bruno Silva stepping back in there. Hasn't been that long since we just saw him fight against JP Buys, taking on Victor Rodriguez. Victor Rodriguez coming off a very tough loss against our own Adrian Yanez, who's been handling business, knocking everybody out, basically. Victor Rodriguez took that fight on short notice, I do believe. I might be wrong on that, but that was a fight that, he looked to be a little bit undersized in there. He looked like, he showed that he's a tough fighter. He was trying to bring the fight to Yanez early. Yanez was just a lot of bit too skilled for him on the feet. And that's the case with a lot of guys that step in there against Yanez. Yanez is really a guy that's starting to put things together and people are taking notice. So just keep that in mind. Now he's taking on a guy in Bruno Silva who looked very, very good on the feet in his last fight, hurting JP Buys on the feet, ended up getting that knockout there. Bruno Silva is a guy that is a very polished grappler too. So don't get it twisted. Understand this guy's very well-rounded. This guy can do it all. Bruno Silva, one of the main training partners of Henry Cejudo, which is always a great thing. And you see him here. This was a big victory for him, taking out JP Bays. And I've been very high on JP. I thought JP would have handled business there. That was a big win. And this was the knockout here from Yanez, when Yanez hit him with the nasty leg kick against Rodriguez. But Rodriguez is getting another chance here. And you kind of got a feel for him because he's getting another chance against a very, very tough opponent in Bruno Silva. I think Bruno Silva gets the job done here. The one thing I'll say Victor has going for him is this fighter is a little bit more his size here. This is a fight that it's going to come down to who's the more skilled fighter. And not that wasn't the case in the past, but I'm just saying Bruno Silva is going to be a little bit of the smaller guy here as well, with the 1-inch reach disadvantage, 1-inch height disadvantage. But Bruno Silva is the more talented fighter, the bulldog. This guy's starting to grow on me, actually, and I think this guy is the real deal. I know he's been getting in some real training, some top-notch training over in Arizona, and this is a guy that we got to keep an eye on. He's 11-5-2, but that's not really so indicative of who he is as a fighter. I like Bruno Silva here to win this fight, and he's right around a -280 right now. Take a look at the live line. Bruno Silva, up to -335 now. So, money's still coming in on him. And I think it's respectable, man. I understand it. All right, so the pick is Bruno Silva. And the next fight, Claudio Silva taking out Court, the Crusher, McGee. This is some good matchmaking right here. Both these guys been around the block for quite some time, a little bit up there in age, but two guys that can definitely still handle business inside the octagon. These are guys that can definitely pull off victories. Silva's coming off a loss, but against James Krause. And James Krause being a very talented fighter. And before that, Silva was just winning fight after fight. Silva is one of those guys that, in my opinion, he was winning all these fights. He's had some layoffs, and he wasn't really able to get that momentum going. Some guys win as many fights as he does, and they're fighting for big top 10 matchups and whatnot, and top 5 matchups, and it wasn't the case for him. Doesn't speak out as much. He just, does his thing. He trains. He comes in and wins. Even though he lost to James Krause in his last fight, I'm not going to forget all the work that he's put in. Taking out, made easy work of Cole Williams there, submitted Danny Roberts, submitted Nordine Taleb as of recently, took out Leon Edwards. Okay, Leon Edwards is a guy that doesn't lose often. You guys know Leon. I'm very high on Leon. And, spoiler alert, I think that Leon Edwards is going to whoop Nate Diaz. Give you guys a little quick preview into that. But those are big wins, man, for the Hannibal. And now he's fighting Court McGee. Court McGee, as of recently, has been having, trouble winning fights. Carlos Condit looked to be in his prime version as he went out there and styled on Court McGee. Wasn't a good look for Court. Court doesn't look to be in the same shape that we once saw him in. He used to be very shredded, very strong guy. Looks like, he's aging a little bit. I like Claudio here. I think Claudio can hold his own on the feet. He's very well-rounded. Court's going to try to, use his reach advantage, throw those little straight shots, hold Claudio against the cage, throw some punches in the clinch, make this a dirty fight. I think Claudio can handle that. And I like Claudio Silva to win a fight even, at the age of 38, creeping up on 39. Court McGee's no spring chicken either. Hopefully Silva is motivated here. And, he can go out and he can rebound from the loss that he just took to James Krause. But again, Court McGee is a guy that can definitely spoil your party. This is a guy is very tough and great cardio. And the nickname, The Crusher, is very fitting. And he'll go out there and he'll deliver a fight. So shout out to Court McGee as well. Big fan of his. Seen him fight live a couple times. And as far as the line goes, it's a very even line. Let me pull up the live line for you guys. It's pretty much a pick 'em right now. So keep that in mind. All right, how about this fight? This fight's pretty entertaining here. Big Ben Rothwell taking on Chris Barnett. I'm not sure if a lot of you guys are familiar with Chris Barnett, but this guy has been, kind of a character in the MMA game. This guy is a big boy. He's been in some entertaining type of matchups. We've seen him in the wrestling or grappling match against Yoel Romero, where he got subbed. We've seen him in some striking kickboxing bouts. In the MMA game, he throws some funky, wild strikes. Comes in very much overweight, but, he does have some skills, and he can go out there and take it to some of these guys. But, you know, getting a big name like Ben Rothwell, I love this fight here. I love it for Ben Rothwell, too. I think this is a good opportunity for him to get back in the win column and just, you know, have a fun, entertaining type of fight. You know, Rothwell is going to come in with a major height advantage. The reach advantage, we don't have it on Chris, but I think his reach isn't that bad for as tall as he is. He's a big boy. He's going to be carrying a lot of extra weight in there, is Chris Barnett. And let me see here. Yeah, so if you guys aren't familiar with Chris Barnett, I mean, this is a guy, you know, he's well-rounded. Just, I wish this guy would condition himself, man. He would be, you know, I would take him a little bit more seriously. Likes to throw the spinning attacks. And you see him matched up with Bigfoot Silva. You know, he's been getting big names. He's been fighting over on the Japan scene for some time. So, fought Ali Thompson, it looks like, over here too. I mean, a lot of big names. It's only fitting that he gets a fight with a guy like Ben Rothwell, and we'll see what he's about. You know, this is a guy that can strike, he can grapple. I just wonder if he's going to kind of gas out. But the thing is, Ben Rothwell gassed out in his last fight too, right? So, you know, that's there, you know, behind Ben Rothwell as well. You know, Ben Rothwell, this guy, look at this picture here with his newborn. This guy is an absolute Viking, man. The, what's his name again? The Kenosha. They don't got it here. Whatever it was, the Kenosha, whatever. You know, he's from Kenosha. But, you know, Ben Rothwell is a character in his own right. Guy I've been watching forever. Just recently had a fight that was supposed to take place that was pulled against Felipe Lins 3 times in a row, against Askar Muskarov. So, you know, hopefully this fight does play out for him. I'm going to take Ben Rothwell here. Both these guys got cardio issues. I know Ben Rothwell is a guy that, you know, when he puts it together, he's a talented fighter. The line's as high as minus 275 right now. Keep an eye on this guy, Chris Barnett. He's looking to make a name for himself. And I'm going to go with the more decorated and more polished Ben Rothwell here that has a lot of UFC experience. And that one should be a fun fight. Keep an eye on that fight. All right, in the next fight, in the featherweight division, we got Bill Algeo taking on Ricardo Ramos. Bill Algeo, Senor Perfecto. This is a guy that is very decorated on the mats. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. Excellent Muay Thai striker. You know, this guy's been striking, you know, working his striking game for a long time. A lot of professional striking bouts on his resume. This guy's a dangerous fighter. You know, it's been basically what? Win, loss, win, loss, win. It's been, you know, bouncing him back and forth here. Hopefully he can get another victory here, string off 2 together. The loss against Ricardo Lamas was a fight that he was in control in the beginning of that fight and kind of blew it in the later rounds. He got taken down and whatnot. And, you know, that shouldn't really be a problem here as far as getting taken down and controlled in the later rounds. I think Ricardo Ramos is going to want to engage in a striking bout with him here. I think this has all the makings to be a very entertaining fight. Ricardo Ramos coming off a knockout loss against Lerone Murphy. That was a fight that, you know, he really dropped the ball there. But Ricardo Ramos is a guy, we've seen him go out there, throw spinning back elbows. You know, he's been very diverse on the feet. He's a nasty fighter in his own right. Has some good jiu-jitsu. Only 25 years old, so keep an eye on that. We do see a lot of major strides from guys like this around this age. You know, coming off a loss as well. This guy's going to be very motivated. I'm sure he's been grinding on his game right now to increase his skills. You know, stepping in against a guy like Bill Algeo, he has to be ready for the test. I know he knows that. Bill Algeo, though, is, again, this is a guy I've been very impressed with. He's going to be a little bit of the more naturally bigger fighter here. He's going to have quite the height advantage. He's going to have a 1.5 reach advantage. I would like to see this fight strictly take place in the feet, which I very much think that could be the case. And I have this feeling that Bill Algeo is going to handle business here. Again, Bill Algeo, a very well-rounded fighter who is hitting his prime right now. I think that this is a fight that he can take here. I like Bill Algeo. I've been impressed from him as of recently. And but again, Ricardo Ramos is no joke. This is going to be a very good fight, man. It's going to be an entertaining fight. Keep an eye on this fight. Put a little asterisk next to it, you know, on your fight notes. We take a look at the live line. Bill Algeo, slight favorite. This fight is basically a pick'em. Kind of reminds me of this past weekend, right? A lot of pick'em fights. I like fights like this. I like close lines fights. You know, so you're getting a good value on whoever you like. I like Bill Algeo here. I'm excited for this fight. Let's see what kind of Ricardo Ramos shows up. I'm sure a very motivated one. I think we'll see some action in this fight. All right, we're hitting the main card now. This is a fight that was supposed to take place not too long ago. Got rescheduled to this fight card. You know, I was upset at the time, but now look at us. You know, we got another solid fight to look forward to this weekend. I think it even worked out better. Jack Hermansson taking on Edmen Shahbazyan. Jack Hermansson is a guy that's really been putting it together. He's nasty on the ground. Great grappling. And very underrated grappling. You know, pulling off heel hooks on Kelvin Gastelum. His wrestling's solid. He's comes in great shape, has great cardio. He's very physically imposing fighter. Taking on a guy in Edmen Shahbazyan who was very hyped up. I was a big believer in him going into his last fight where he really dropped the ball and did not look good against Derek Brunson. And in my opinion was really exposed in that fight, okay? So, you know, Jack Hermansson's a guy that can definitely do the same thing in my opinion. Derek Brunson's a talented fighter, but Jack Hermansson is in no way, shape, or form a notch below Brunson. So, you know, Edmen's going to have a big test in front of him here. Hermansson was a guy that was, you know, right there at the top of the division not too long ago, you know, before losing to Marvin Vettori. I mean, Marvin Vettori is now fighting for the belt, and, you know, after taking on Jack Hermansson there. Of course, you know, Marvin did just have another fight that he won against Kevin Holland, but still, Hermansson was at the top of the division. You know, Edmen Shahbazyan, in my opinion, he needs to work on his cardio a little bit. You know, sometimes it looks like when he gets in those tough grappling exchanges, he gets up and his arms are a little heavy. We've seen that from him. If you guys remember the Darren Stewart fight, in that Darren Stewart fight, you know, he did show to have a lot of heart in that fight. That was a close fight, though, and he looked very labored and tired in that fight as well. I like Shahbazyan striking, though. You know, if he puts it together, I think he can knock anybody out. Very diverse on the feet. We've seen some great flashes from him there. The submission game, you guys know about his submission skills. This is a guy, you know, Edmen Shahbazyan's a guy that is, you know, he was winning all types of jiu-jitsu tournaments as a young kid over there in the California scene, winning stuff in his teens, 18, 19. But again, this was a tough fight for him, man. Brunson exposed him. And we're going to see how he bounces back, you know, against a guy. Here he is, man, Jack Hermansson. I recognize this guy over here too. Kenneth Berg. This is another guy, a very talented guy from Norway. I mean, these are the real Vikings. You guys want to talk about Vikings? These are the real Vikings. These are the descendants of the Viking lineage, man. These guys are no joke. And I like Jack Hermansson here. I think Jack Hermansson has the potential, man, to really hurt Edmen. If Edmen gasses out and starts to get tired in there after he doesn't get his finish early or he doesn't have things going his way early and he gets tired, you know, maybe he mentally second guesses himself after that loss he just took. Hermansson can hurt him. Hermansson can get takedowns on you, and he could brutalize you with the ground and pound. Hermansson has very underrated wrestling. Again, I'll say that again. He has very underrated wrestling, man. You know, coming from the European scene. A lot of people don't think these European fighters have those types of grappling credentials, but Hermansson will rip you down to the mat and smash you up. That's why I'm picking Jack Hermansson to win this fight. He's going to have a 3.5 reach advantage. This guy is a physical specimen, 32 years old, right in his prime right now. I like Hermansson to win this fight. We take a look at the live line. It's right around -150. And I think Hermansson gets the job done. But again, Edmen Shahbazyan is a guy that has shown to have a lot of skills. He's had to have gone back to the drawing board and fix some things up here if he's going to come out and take Jack Hermansson out. One other thing I do want to say real quick before we move on to the next fight. Edmen Shahbazyan is only 23.5 years old. So a lot of room for growth here. Do we see that growth at this part in time right now in his career coming off that loss? Does he come in as a different fighter, as an evolved fighter? Fighting out of Glendale Fighting Club, I'm not that high on the training that he gets. You know, Ronda Rousey's old coach, I forget his name. I think it was Count Dracula or something like that. But, you know, I joke, man. I'm joking around with you guys. But you guys get it. You know, I'm not that high on his coach. What's his name? Edmen Taverdian. I don't know. I think there's better coaches out there. I would love to see a guy like Edmen over at American Top Team or something like that. But Jack Hermansson is the pick. And that should be a good fight. That's one of the more fan-friendly fights on this card. One of the ones I'm looking forward to. All right. Dropping down to the flyweight division. David Dvořák taking on Raulian Paiva. This is a fight that is, it's a good fight for the division, man. The flyweight division has some killers out there, man. People were sleeping on that division. This is the epitome of those types of fighters and fights that people underestimate, man. Paiva is a guy that's been putting it together. He's a top prospect in the division. He was won 2 fights in a row. If you want to look at that Bontaran fight, that was a fight that had all the makings to be fight of the night on that card, and he had a bad cut. The doctor had to stop the fight. You know, he went through some adversity early in that round and then came back and still looked good in the second, and looked good in that first round before the fight was stopped. So he's a dangerous fighter. His real only loss, in the UFC was that split decision loss to Kai Kara France. Other than that, man, this kid is rangy for the division. Going to have a 1.5-inch reach advantage against Dvořák. Paiva is a little bit more explosive, wild, well-rounded with his jiu-jitsu, his striking. He's a little bit more explosive, where David Dvořák is a guy that's going to sit down on his fundamentals, pump the jab, try to stuff your takedown and just outstrike you, tit for tat, throw some nice leg kicks, some nice calf kicks. He likes those calf kicks there. And this is a guy, David Dvořák, that looked very good in his last fight against Espinosa. And has a victory over Bruno Silva. We talked about Bruno Silva earlier. I am high on him. So, these are some good victories that he has on his resume. And he is now 19-3 as a professional. This is an excellent fight here. I've been back and forth on who I want to pick in this fight, man, because I really do like both of these guys. Paiva, in my opinion, maybe has more potential as he gets a little bit older. I think this is a guy that we could really see start to iron his game out, and we could be talking about this guy as a potential champion or a potential, contender for the belt. Whereas Dvořák is a little bit more, meat and potatoes, very, very polished. And he's already, 28 years old. A little bit room for growth, almost 29. I'm going to take Raulian Paiva here. I like him. I like his heart. I like the fact that he's going to bring the fight here. He's only 25 years old, and maybe we see some more growth in his game. I like Paiva here. This is a very close fight. David Dvořák is absolutely no joke. And Dvořák is representing the Czech Republic. And this is going to be a good fight, man. The winner of this moves through the ranks in the flyweight division. And they work their way up towards the top of the flyweight division, which is coming around. Oh, look who we got here. The most entertaining fighter in the game. Also fighting out of the Czech Republic, right? So, yeah. David Dvořák, let's see if he could put that flag up in the air and pull off a victory, but I'm taking Paiva. All right, moving over to the featherweight division. On the women's side, Felicia Spencer makes her return to the octagon, takes on Norma Dumont. Norma Dumont looked very, very good in her last fight against Ashley Evans-Smith. Styled on her, outclassed her, and put everybody on notice of the skills that she brings to the table. 30 years old, she's right in her prime. She's well-rounded. She could box you up. She could use her grappling. Felicia Spencer, more of just a hard-nosed type of fighter. She's a good wrestler. She could take your back. She can definitely exploit your ground game if you're not up to par there. Lost 2 of her last 3 fights, but it was against Chris Cyborg for the title and her last fight against Amanda Nunes for the title. Other than that, she took out Zara Farin, a striking-based fighter who didn't have the ground game to match up with Felicia. Like I said, we've seen Felicia exploit girls with their grappling. She'll take your back. She'll beat you up on the ground. She's a very tough girl. I'm going to cut to the chase in this one, man. I like Norma Dumont. I think that Norma and her last fight showed to me that she has a little bit more potential as a overall well-rounded fighter. And I'm excited to see if she can put it together against a girl like Felicia. And I'm going to take her to win this fight. And she is a dog right now, too. So she's a plus 120 dog. So you hear a little bit of barking in the background. This was Felicia Spencer, where she actually did get to hold the belt. Amanda Nunes strapped her up after beating her down good. Smashing up her skull there. But again, Amanda Nunes, one of the more dangerous fighters to ever step in the octagon. So no real shame there. Felicia very well could come back in here and string off a victory, put things back together against a girl like Norma, who's a lot more unproven than girls like Nunez and Cyborg. But I like Norma Dumont. Again, she's a very well-rounded fighter. And I think that she might have the edge on the feet. And we take a look. Felicia Spencer will have a 1-inch reach advantage. Not too worried about that. Norma has a 1-inch height advantage. So very physically similar type of fighters. And I like Dumont to pull off the upset there. Justin Tafa taking on Jared Vanderaa. Justin Tafa coming off that split decision loss against Carlos Felipe, who's been putting it together with the boxing. Tafa showed that, he does have striking in his arsenal too. Tafa can strike with you. And only 4-2 as a professional, not a lot of experience. He's been on the tough end of the stick, out in the octagon. We've seen him get slept in a nasty way against Yorgan De Castro. He did bounce back with his own finish, though, against Juan Adams. Shout out to Juan Adams, MMA Live Discussion, Episode 1. Hopefully we'll see him back in the octagon one day. But, Justin, in my opinion, is a guy, he wants to keep this fight standing, or he could use his striking and try to exploit Jared's striking. Jared is just a big boy. We saw him get a victory on Dana White's Contender Series where he really just used his size. If you guys remember that fight, that was against Harry Hunsucker. Harry was landing some good shots early in that fight, but Vanderaa was just eating them up and eventually got the fight down to the mat where he was able to ground and pound Harry there. And that was 6 months ago. Kind of weird. I don't know why that seems like it was a lot further back than then, but, lost his UFC debut against Sergey Spivak. Sergey beat him up pretty good. Sergey, finished him on the mat. I'm not really that high on Vanderaa striking and his skills per se on the feet. He's just a big boy that I think can expose some of the smaller heavyweights with his grappling and durability and ground and pound. I don't necessarily think Tafa is that guy, though. Tafa will be the better striker here. If Tafa can keep this fight on the feet for the most part, I think he wins this fight. Not too worried about the 6-inch reach disadvantage because I think Tafa is the more skilled striker. So my pick is going to be Justin Tafa to win the fight. But, the line is pretty steep on Tafa at the same time. Vanderaa is a guy, like I said, man, he's a big boy that I know he's motivated right now coming off that loss. And if he could use the grappling, he might be able to use that to pull off the victory against Tafa. And again, we've seen Tafa get slept before. You know how it is with the big boys. They throw leather. I just don't really see that from Vanderaa. A lot of his finishes, I believe, are on the mat, with his ground and pound. If you look at all these finishes, these are ruined pots. These are mostly on the mat. So he needs to get this fight down to the mat where he can maybe exploit Tafa's ground game. I just don't know if that's the case, though. The live line, Tafa is right around a 2-1 favorite right now. Little surprising, but yeah, I got Tafa to win the fight overall, though. All right, the co-main event. We got Xiaonan taking on Carla Esparza. Not sure exactly how this is a co-main event spot here, but it is as of right now. So we'll talk about it as it is. Xiaonan Yan, one of the very talented women's Chinese fighters. You guys know that the women's Chinese fighters are no joke. For whatever reason, they got it going on. Even though one of them just lost the belt, but still, they're very talented. Yan is just... her name could be mentioned just with the top of them. Very nasty striker, competent with the grappling and the takedown abilities, and she's very aggressive on the feet. I expect this fight to be a little bit of a striking versus grappler match in a sense. I think that Yan will definitely have the advantage on the feet. Esparza has some of the best wrestling in the division. We've seen her go out there and steal a lot of victories with her wrestling. You take a look at the Grasso fight. She was able to steal that fight with the takedowns. The Michelle Watterson fight, she got some takedowns. The Marina Rodriguez fight, that was a big victory for her, right? Marina's no joke. She got the split decision victory with the takedowns. I would say Carla's boxing is not that bad because we've seen some moments where it's looked very good. If you think about the Claudia Gadelha fight, she looked very good on the feet there. She's a tough cookie. Carla is the inaugural champion of the strawweight division. If you guys remember that, she took out Rose Namajunas. And, she's a little bit more up there in age these days, though, right? She's 33 and a half years old. Not too old, though. You know, a lot of experience behind her. Xiaonan Yan, again, though, this girl has some nasty striking and has been stringing off victories inside the octagon. Took out Angela Hill. Took out Karolina Kovacevic. Took out Claudia Gadelha in her last fight. Looked very good there. That was 6 months ago. This is a big fight for her. She gets this victory here. She's going to be moving her way through the ranks. Maybe eventually we see her fighting for the belt. She is, let's take a look at the live line right now. Right now, she is right around a -130 favorite, a very slight favorite. Okay, so I think she has to be able to stuff those takedowns and she can handle this fight. And that's why I'm going to take Xiaonan Yan. She's a tough girl, strictly business. So is Esparza. But I don't know if Esparza can just consistently hold the takedowns. As of recently, doesn't look like the judges are holding those takedowns as highly as they once did in the past. So even if she does get taken down, maybe Yan gets back up to her feet, lands some nasty shots in the feet. Where Esparza does have some holes in her striking defense. She does eat shots at times. Esparza will throw some heavy leather back, but Yan will be the more technical and better striker. I see her winning a decision there. Maybe she gets a finish. I don't know. We don't see that too often in this division here on the women's side. Maybe we do, though. But I got Yan winning the fight. All right, we're getting to the main event here. This is what it's all about. Damn, we just strung off a lot of fights, huh? It's a lot of fights on this card. What else? Before we get into this main event, you guys know the deal. If anybody wants to reach out to me, you guys got my email, mmafortuneteller@gmail.com. Matter of fact, man, there's a couple of you guys that shot me some messages, man. I got to get to you guys. I'm sorry. I appreciate the love, man. If you know what I'm talking about, if you shot me an email, I'm going to get to you. Shout out to you guys from across the world out there. And Instagram, you could shoot me a DM, mmafortuneteller_. If any of you guys are interested in my official plays, reach out to me, ask what my pricing is. I'll send it out to you. And but definitely have some plays locked in for this card, man. I'm happy about this card. And what else? Before I get into this main event, I guess that's pretty much it. We broke down the news. I hope you guys like the new way I have the show with the MMA news, the recap. I try to keep it a little bit more organized. We'll have those timestamps down here below. And we got this main event, man. Rob Font taking on Cody Garbrandt. Cody coming off that major win where he knocked out Rafael Assunção. Let's not get it twisted, man. Assunção is no joke. A very, very well-rounded fighter. Assunção is a guy I've been watching since the WEC days. Nasty striker, nasty jiu-jitsu player. That was a big win for Cody. Cody needed that win. Lost 3 in a row. Of course, the TJ Dillashaw fights. A little bit of asterisks near those. TJ was on performance-enhancing drugs. I really hope we ever get to see them run it back. Would love to see that fight ran back. Pedro Munoz fight. That was a fight that Cody looked good at times. Got a little overzealous, got aggressive, got caught in there. You still got to wonder about the chin of Cody, in my opinion. He's taken a lot of damage. When Cody has that more cerebral, patient type of style, I think he gives people, I think he gives himself, more of a run for his money, man. I think that he's going to get more out of himself. I don't want to see him engage in those brawls. Yes, I think he can knock out some of these dudes in those brawls, but he's letting the fight become more of a 50-50. Or even the way that his chin has looked as of recently, maybe he's given himself a 40% chance because the chin is not as durable as some of these top guys. I think Rob Font's chin will be better than Cody's. I've seen Rob Font eat some big shots. He hasn't taken as many damage. He seems to be a little bit more of a durable fighter. I don't think Cody should go out there and engage in a brawl. I could see Rob Font sleeping him. Rob Font is a nasty striker. We see him training over there with Calvin Kattar for years now. The New England Cartel. Rob Font is a well-rounded fighter as well. Good takedown defense. This is going to be a striking-based fight, though. You see the Sergio Pettis victory on his resume. Sergio Pettis has been looking great. He's now the Bellator champion, bantamweight champion of the world. Let's not forget that. Ricky Simon, one of the more dominating fighters in the division. Marlon Moraes, a former title challenger. Thomas Almeida, a nasty fighter. Does have a loss against Rafael Assunção, if you want to use that fighter math, that MMA math. Font's 33 years old, creeping up on 34. Definitely let it be known that now is his time. He doesn't have time to mess around here. He needs to go out there, make a statement, and try to push for a potential top fight in the division. If he wants, he wants that belt. He needs to take out Cody and then start pushing for a chance to fight for the belt. Cody, one of my favorite fighters in the game. But you guys know, I talked about it earlier. I always try to keep it real with you guys. I do give the edge here to Cody with the speed and the technical abilities. He's lightning fast, man. There's not a lot of guys that move at the speed of Cody Garbrandt, but I do question his chin here, and I think that this is going to be a war. I can see this fight being a straight-up war. It's a 5-round fight. I'm going to be rooting for Cody hard in this fight, unless I got some money otherwise. You know, I got money telling me something otherwise, because I am picking Rob Font to win this fight. And that's just because I think that these guys are going to brawl it out. And I think that Rob Font's chin holds up. And Rob Font is extremely technical on the feet too. The jab is beautiful. You see him and Calvin working the jab and the boxing in a great way inside the octagon. Rob Font's going to have a 6-inch reach advantage. So that jab is really going to be there to be pumped. All right, guys? You guys want to see that jab being pumped up? Rob Font could do that this weekend. I'm sure a lot of you guys are rooting for Cody as well. I know there's a lot of Cody fans out there. Let it be known, man. I'm a big Cody fan. If I don't have action on this fight, I will be rooting for Cody, just so you guys know. I got Rob Font, though. And the line, 130. Sometimes when you got fights like this where you got a fighter in Cody Garbrandt who has that big name, the flashy knockouts, maybe the line's even a little skewed. Maybe the line should even be, maybe Rob Font should be like a -150. I don't know. Cody's talented too, man. It's going to be an amazing fight, one way or the other. I hope you guys enjoy this entire fight card. I love when you guys shoot me messages on Instagram, and we're all, chatting it up about these fights. I'll have the stories going for the fight card, hopefully. I think I should be in town, and, nothing too crazy going on. I don't know if I'll be traveling, but you guys know no matter what, I'm watching these fights, and I love to hop on Instagram and post the stories for you guys and whatnot. Hopefully you guys like that stuff. So yeah, man, that's gonna wrap up the fight card. And what else? I'm trying to think if I'm forgetting anything here. I guess I'll give my voice a rest, and I'll go grab some brunch, some breakfast, lunch. It's kind of early over here Monday morning. I get this video out to you guys. You guys all have an amazing week. And I don't know why, man. This coffee's gotten me want to talk even a little bit more. I don't think there's nothing else to be said, though. You guys all have an amazing week, man. Take care of yourself. Hopefully you guys are enjoying life starting to become a little bit more normal. Some of my boys were out at the UFC event, the Houston event. They told me it was crazy, man. It was awesome out there. So life starting to become a little bit more normal. I told you guys you will be seeing me out there at these events very, very soon. Hopefully the next one that's here in Florida, I'll definitely be there, or even around the vicinity. But some great content will be coming to you guys then. All right, guys. So on that note, signing out, the teller.
The MMA fortune teller.
The teller.